Hey there YouTube, Mike Seeklander back, and we wanted to bring you some content that you specifically asked for. And one of the things that we like to do is solicit information or things that you want to see or learn more about, and then give you that information. So today I'm going to be talking about one-handed draw processes, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about one-handed manipulations and where you might manipulate your firearm. And remember, this is in addition to the one-handed structure video that we did some time ago. And if you haven't watched that video, please take a second to go back and watch that video, because I give you the key components of shooting the handgun with a better structure, learning how to control the recoil with not just your arm but your body, and how to do that specifically. Also talked about some of the key nuances of shooting with one hand, the 3 fingers, and supporting the handgun and not moving the gun when you fire. So please watch that video as well. So let's talk real quickly about the one-handed draw process, and more specifically why we might do a one-handed draw process. Now, I am carrying, of course, in my standard appendix position, my beautiful Wilson Combat firearm here. And I'm going to talk about this in terms of course, your self-defense system. If you have to draw your handgun, I often see individuals, specifically from the appendix position, doing what I call the rip and grip. The rip and grip is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying that it's totally wrong, but it has some limitations, and I'm going to show you those limitations. The rip and grip is simply the process of ripping the shirt out of the way, right? And then gripping the handgun after you rip the shirt out of the way. Folks will get in a good position. It's super fast. I see really fast Instagram and YouTube and social media videos of shooters ripping and gripping and doing a second or a second and a half draw process. But the problem with me relying on that support hand to rip the shirt out of the way is if I'm in a circumstance where maybe I've walked into that parking lot and I think there's someone around my vehicle, or maybe I'm in my home or on my property, and it's not a circumstance where I've decided to grab the gun. I don't have the gun in my hand yet, but I have my flashlight out because I think there might be someone there. And lo and behold, as I'm searching the area, I realize, and there's in fact a person creep up next to my vehicle, and then they stand up and maybe they have a knife. I know I'm contriving this just a little bit, but the point is, my support hand is now occupied. And if you can imagine, one of the things that I like to do in my low light system is utilize that light to flash and illuminate their eyes. So if I found that potential threat with my flashlight and I'm using the light's turned on at this point in time, I can't necessarily reach down and rip the clothing out of the way. So my recommendation for you is, if you're going to do a draw process in the appendix position or even strong side position, is you work on sweeping the garment with your strong hand. And what I like to do when I'm doing a full two-handed draw, meaning I don't have the flashlight in my hand or I'm not tied up and entangled with someone, we'll talk about that in a future video for close range, is use a strong hand sweeping process and assist. It looks something like this. So wherever my hands start from, I'm going to reach down inside the shirt and I'm going to basically grab it with a 4-finger hook. So I've grabbed the garment with 4 fingers. And then I'm going to bring the shirt nice and high. And this is a 4-finger grip that allows me to let the shirt slide through my fingers. And then I'm going to switch to my thumb. And then that thumb is going to drive straight down up the back strap of the handgun. And I can establish the grip on the holster, come out of the holster, and then of course start to form my two-handed grip. So once again, let me holster safely for you. My hands, wherever they come from, are going to move at the same time and same speed. I'm going to reach inside that shirt, 4-finger hook, nice high pull of the shirt, switch the fingers to the thumb, and then drive that hand down. Now I call this the assist because oftentimes when I'm doing this, let me pick the speed up just a little bit for you, I'm going to sweep with my 4 fingers and I can assist with my support hand. Let me show you that again. Once again, I am sweeping with my 4 fingers and assisting with my support hand. But when I practice this on a regular basis where I take this hand out of the equation. You could put it on your head or in your pocket or wherever you want, or you could even grab a flashlight and start to work some of those skills and practice on the sweep and the grip and the draw process with one hand only, okay? So in this case, I'm still doing the same motion, but because I don't have the other hand to assist, I have to be very deliberate in the garment sweeping process. Up, over the top of the gun, switch to my finger, drive that thumb down. And for me, remember, we're always attacking the gun from the rear. So when I'm drawing a handgun, I want to attack the gun from the rear and build a nice high grip on the handgun, and then you can go to your one-handed eye index technique or whatever your flashlight technique of choice is. So this is a one-handed draw process with my strong hand. So if you're carrying a firearm concealed like I am in a closed front garment, you're going to want to work on your process so you can do it with two hands or one hand. You have to have that same skill. And if you look at the speed that I do that, if I were to time my draw process, it's about the same speed, to be honest with you. So that's why I personally don't like the rip and grip, because it relies on this other hand. Now, I'm doing this with my strong hand, but what if you were in a circumstance where you had to draw the handgun with only your support hand? So this hand is now injured or occupied for whatever reason. And in most cases, it's probably injured because the last thing we want to do is draw the handgun and fire it with your support hand only. So I'm going to give you some tricks. Number one, I'm still going to sweep the garment with that 4-finger hook. So I'm grabbing inside the shirt. I have 4 fingers on the garment. But notice now that I'm going to have to reverse the direction. With my strong hand, I hooked the garment like this and did my sweep process. With my support hand, I'm going to reach down the same spot, but I've got to reverse the angle that I'm moving the shirt. Now from here, to establish a good grip on the handgun, I'm going to drive my hand up the handgun grip. This is really important. When I grab the handgun grip, I'm always going to grip it with 4 fingers, okay? I call this a 4-finger grip, and what this does is, this allows me to draw the handgun out of the holster without accidentally getting a finger inside the trigger guard. And let me show you what that might look like. If I drew the handgun, right, and I'll hold this out of the way for you, with 3 fingers, and I pull the handgun out of the holster, and then my pinky slips inside the trigger guard, this could be a serious safety concern. So when you're doing this, remember, this is already injured or it's occupied. So there's already a substantial level of stress in this circumstance. So when I do this, I'm going to reach down, 4-finger hook, drive over, go up the grip, okay? And I've got a good solid grip. And then from here, how do I get the hand in my normal shooting grip? And I'm going to give you a couple options. Number one will be to take that handgun, turn it around, and actually push it back down in your holster. So all I'm using is, I'm using the holster itself as kind of a control point, so now I can rotate my hand, establish my full grip, and then fire my shots. The second option that I think is probably the most common, and to me the easiest to use, is what I call the knee method. So I'm going to grab that garment, sweep it out of the way, go ahead and access the firearm with that 4-finger grip. I'm going to come around my body as safely as I possibly can, and I'm going to take the gun and I'm going to place it right between the 2 teardrop muscles of my knees. This is going to allow me to switch up, reestablish a good firing grip, and then fire that handgun. Now keep in mind, and this is a critical point, as I'm teaching this process, one-handed manipulation, specifically with your support hand, we decided to film this and me teach this dry fire only. You should not practice any of these techniques live fire until you've practiced them dry fire first. Unloaded handguns, no ammunition, with lots and lots of repetitions. You have to make sure you're safe. And one more thing about one-handed manipulations. We are in a circumstance, for example, when I grab that handgun, I turn it around my holster, I'm doing everything I possibly can to keep the muzzle away from my body as I establish that firing grip. For me, it's a little easier to do that when I'm doing this by drawing the handgun, coming around my body. Notice the direction of the muzzle, and then taking the handgun and putting it between my knees. I call this the knee method. For me, that's a little safer way to draw the handgun without having any kind of safety violations whatsoever. But keep in mind, the reason you're practicing this is because you're probably already injured, right? So once again, the stress levels and the situation warrants it, and you're very, very stressed out at that point in time. So please make sure you practice these dry fire, okay? So once again, when you're drawing your handgun, if you're using 2 hands, by all means, sweep and grip. Use that assist method. Have the ability with your strong hand, if that flashlight is out, to do a full draw process with 1 hand only. And at some point in time, work on your other hand, work on your support hand draw process so you can draw the handgun out of the holster and establish a good firing grip if you had to with your support hand, okay? So let me show you some live fire work of the same exercises and how this would play out on the range after I've established a certain number of repetitions and a certain amount of skill. Dry fire first. Okay, so let's put that technique through some of its live fire paces. Now remember, I'm only here because I've done lots and lots of dry fire work first. Of course, I'm here with my brand new Wilson Combat SFT9, and time to get some live fire time in on it as well. And there you have it, some live fire drills. As always with live fire, keep it simple. So some 2 to 4 shot drills and work all of your draw processes. That two-handed assist, your strong hand only, and then your support hand only. And remember, I'm here doing this live fire because I've already done my dry fire reps. I put the work in to ensure I can safely do this and practice a skill in the range. And last but not least, don't forget about structure. We're talking about good shooting structure. No matter how you access a firearm, whether you're drawn or you picked it up off a table, if you have to shoot with one hand, you have to understand how to build a good one-handed structure. Of course, we showed you that in a previous video, so check that out if you haven't checked that out. Mike Seeklander here to make you happy and present some of the subjects that you want to learn more about, and this is one that you asked for. I hope you learned a couple things. If you did, please share it. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, it's down there somewhere. Please click that subscribe button. And until then, train hard.